Hi, I'm Pav.
And I'm Neil.
And welcome to the Top 10 of Anything podcast.
Let's start the countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
There are many classic movies. Some even have sequels better than the original. But to have a trilogy of great movies is a tough task. Franchise movies keep the cinema coffers flowing, but what are the best ones? Here's Neil with 10 movie trilogy facts.
Well, thank you very much, Pav. So what I thought we'd do this time is get 10 famous film franchises that were destined to be trilogies, but never made it. So here we go. We have Hellboy at number 1. The third was cancelled due to spiralling costs.
Welcome to the party, pal!
Amazing Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man, the third installment was cancelled when an agreement was met with Marvel to take over.
But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
And Tron, the third installment, was cancelled when Disney thought the box office wouldn't be there for it. Although, brackets, it was announced this morning that they are now doing a third one. Number 4, Kick-Ass, a third offering. Oh,
Hang on.
play that.
Lots of guns.
Sorry, I missed that one. Kick-Ass, a third offering, was discussed when Vaughn wanted to change directions, but never got any further.
You want to take a dinghy? No, I took care of that at the press conference.
And then we've got 28 months later, was due to be the third film in the franchise, but got cancelled when the backers couldn't agree on it. But Boyle and Garland have still said they would like to do it.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Fantastic Four. Both films did better at the box office than people even thought. The third was closed after Fox couldn't find an avenue, and one star, Chris Evans, moved on.
Trust me.
Kill Bill. Although perfect just as the two movies, in 2004, Tarantino said he still had more to tell and that Uma Thurman was on board. It vanished, and QT is now about to make his final film, The Movie Critic.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
Chinatown. Polanski directed the original classic and started directing the sequels. Then Nicholson took over the duties. There was due to be a third, but was dropped to the latter's box office failure.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
And the new Clash of the Titans was going to have a third one in 2010. It was closely followed by the second, but poor box office put the third installment back to bed.
You shall not pass!
And The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. After the success of Fincher's remake, the studio was keen to adapt the other two. Well, according to reports, they were shelved when star Daniel Craig wanted too much money to star.
You're gonna see some serious shit.
Perfect timing there. Welcome,
There we
everybody.
are.
Thank you very much, Neil, for the 10 movie trilogy facts. Our guest joining us this week, he's already doing bedroom gymnastics on the video.
Oh, you couldn't see that? Or could you? You could. Oh, great.
It's top head Simon is here with us. Yay for his
Thank you
first
very
go.
much, Simon.
He's losing his podcast cherry to us tonight, doing
Well, that's
gymnastics
it. I mean,
on his bed.
You're actually coming live from my childhood bedroom. I come up to see my mother, and this is where we are. So, as you just mentioned.
The stories that mattress could tell.
Yeah. Or smell.
Indeed. So we're here to do movie trilogies, Simon.
Yes, absolutely.
How hard did you find compiling your top 10?
Do you know what? I found it quite easy to get the sort of, say, half a dozen. But then there's movies that I haven't seen, so I couldn't put in there and remain blissfully ignorant to them. And then there's others where after I'd compiled my 10, I suddenly was like, actually, that counts as a trilogy when you think about it.
Ooh,
and so I could shoehorn that in there.
Yeah.
But we'll get to which ones those are.
Yeah, no, that's all good.
Indeed. Neil?
Yeah, could have easily had a top 15, I think. We always say this every week, but
yeah,
I did actually narrow it down quite quickly this one because I just thought, well, be ruthless, be in, and just do your 10, and then I got there. So controversy. I might have some in there and some not that people will disagree or not disagree. I usually do.
I think I've got some controversially that aren't in my top 10. I wonder if they'd be the same. Yeah, I wonder if it'd be the same ones. Who knows? But I was the same. There was a couple where I thought that's a good, and I thought, oh no, because the third movie is crap.
Yeah,
I can't put that one in. So it's gonna be interesting. I'm sure we'll have a few repeats and a few duplicates, but
I'm sure there will be.
Who knows? Simon, kick us off with your number 10.
All right, do you know what? My number 10 is actually one of the surprise ones. I don't think this will be anywhere near your lists. Final Destination.
Okay. How many movies has there been overall?
There's actually been, I believe, 5.
5. Okay.
I say I believe because over the past few months I've made it my duty to watch these movies in preparation for this because I wanted to include them and I've never seen them. Heard people say things about it. I'll be driving down the road and there'll be, a combine harvester in front of us. Be like, I can't because of Final Destination. I'll be in a room with a ceiling fan and people say, I can't be in here because of Final Destination. Or there'll be a ladder that's, precariously placed outside of a building because I can't walk over there because of Final Destination. I'll be like, And yeah, you're right. There's some quite intricate and exquisite and extravagant deaths in those movies. And the good thing about it that I found was you got the first one where it introduced the concept where the initial scene is someone foresees everybody's, all their friends' deaths.
Yeah.
And then through the rest of the movie, they're trying to avoid it. And for me, that's a brilliant concept. And they were rightfully able to squeeze every drop out of that for the next 5 movies. But the thing is, as you know, with sequels and trilogies and then quadrilogies, you have to build on it with each one. So the deaths became more extravagant. The plots and everything surrounded, how everything come together in the end in the 5th movie. If you haven't seen it, I won't spoil it. Well, actually,
we're doing spoilers. Yeah, we're doing spoilers. Yeah. Don't worry. You spoil away.
In the 5th movie, it goes back to the first movie. The last scene in the 5th movie is from the first movie. Everything comes back together nicely like that. Brilliant.
A big old revolve. Do you think though, Final Destination, Simon? It's always classed as a horror film, but I always think it's more of a. I don't quite know. I never seem to want to put it in the category of horror. I know the deaths are horrific, but there's nothing scary, if you know what I mean.
That's it. I would define it as a thriller. Yeah,
but some of the deaths are pretty gross and pretty.
It always reminded me like Saw, where it got more and more inventive in the way that people would die. That's all it was.
That's it. Yeah. No, a very, very good comparison.
I haven't seen them for a long time. I'm obviously they still hold up because if you've watched it not long ago and you still enjoyed it,
they're of a certain era.
God. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, aren't we all? We're all of a certain vintage, just of more of a vintage than others.
Yeah, I don't think the mobile phones used in them were quite of the time, and the music and the hairstyles and everything about it is very 21st century teen.
Now, was it the second one or the third one that had it was the pile up on the motorway?
That's the second one. That's the
second one because that was the one where the woman is like stuck in the car and there's like some kind of piece of wood or some stick that's near her head. And they go in with the jaw crushers or whatever it is to get her out of the car, and it sets the airbag off, and it makes her.
Well, that's it. I mean, there was a revolution in terms of cinematography around that time that we'll get into with some of the other movies, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah.
But once they started introducing CGI into these movies,
that's right.
The possibilities became sort of limitless.
Yeah.
They really became extravagant, and there's a very memorable death involving Nigel. That really uses CGI and the ladder through the head at one point.
Yeah.
And that gruesome sunbed one.
That's it. Yes. The sunbed one, very memorable.
I mean, it is just a list of gruesome ways to go. But
that's it. We should be afraid of sunbeds.
That's the thing, though. We're talking about these gruesome deaths, but it is fun.
Yeah.
Bizarrely,
but that's the whole point of it.
I know, but it just is such a good ride. I enjoy those movies. I really do.
That's a great one to kick us off with, Simon. Wonderful. Go on then, Neil. You're number 10.
So number 10, I've got the Evil Dead trilogy.
Okay.
But I'll rank them as Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, and then the original. Although I have got a very soft spot for the original, it just didn't have the comedy. Are you a fan of these movies, Simon?
No, I've never seen them. And zombies.
Well,
Not really.
Deadites.
Possessed.
Oh, okay.
Deadites. Yeah.
Then I
Yeah.
know nothing about them then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
but it is.
I thought I
mean,
knew that about them, but no.
true horror. That's a true horror franchise,
Yeah,
isn't it?
that is a horror franchise, especially the first one, which I watched again recently, and it does hold up well, seeing how low budget it was made for and everything, and how they had to sort of make things up as they went along, like the steady cam that they did. But it's quite nasty, that first one, when you watch it. It's no humor in it at all.
But it was one of the
really,
original video nasties,
in
wasn't
our
it, from the
country
80s?
because
Yeah.
of obviously the infamous tree scene.
Oh, so
one of them.
what sort of era is this? What year?
So the first Evil Dead is 1982.
Oh, okay. So
And it's
very
Sam
old.
Raimi, who went on to direct the Spider-Mans and
Yes.
things. And it was his first movie, and it was basically students got together and raised as much money as they could and made a cabin in the wood horror film.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they've done it really well. So if you see all their old practical effects, they're pretty gruesome. But
Do you know what
done
sort of
with, like,
budget it was?
I don't even think it was like $20,000. It would probably tell
Really?
you.
And box
Yeah, it was,
office?
yeah. Oh, it's huge. Became a huge hit because there's. I won't go into too much detail about the infamous tree scene. If you've seen it, you know. But that was quite shocking back then. I mean, even Sam Raimi now says he would never be brave enough to do anything like that again. But he was young, naive, and didn't know. The Steadicam, they basically built a plank to hold the camera to follow people around rather than have that big contraption, which went on to become the proper Steadicam. I find it all fascinating. And then they sort of remade it with the second one, but they turned the main protagonist into a proper hero, made it very sort of horror comedy, and then they went even more so with the third one, Simon. It was pure horror comedy.
Yeah.
And Ash who was the main protagonist, became the big sort of hero of the franchise. But it's fun. It's fun. You'll never see so much blood in your life.
Yeah.
But it's all done, like I said, tongue in cheek. But I would watch them in order, though. I would.
But that's it. I just had a quick peek at those statistics I asked about. Budget £275,000.
Was it okay?
Yeah, that's very low even for 1982. And then box office 30 million, which is very high for that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're looking at that's the same kind of like Blair Witch Project kind of.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think that was
exactly.
40,000. I
Yeah.
think the budget
Yeah, and
for
that
that.
had probably over hundreds of million.
Oh my god, it was
wasn't
crazy. It was absolutely
That
crazy.
did, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just
that
it's
one-
a. I was going to say it was just a film that keeps on going. It doesn't disappear. The original Evil Dead, so it's 40 plus years old now. So
And the sound design of the Evil Dead when it is on it is just horrific. It just stays with you all the time.
yeah,
It's a horrible, horrible sound. But
It
I
is.
would recommend it though, Simon. If you, I mean, I don't know whether you're a horror
No,
fan.
no. Well, I think with all the ones I think my goal of this is all the movies that I haven't seen. I'd love to go away and watch.
Oh god, our lists of things that we pick up on each episode is just
Yeah.
getting longer and longer and longer. There's no
and
time
trying to
in it.
plow through them and getting far
Indeed.
behind now.
Indeed. Okay, my number 10 is the Naked Gun trilogy. Now, I was talking to Mel at work, who's been a guest on the pod a couple of times, and we were just quoting bits and pieces to each other. Now, again, whether they get made these days, that kind of movie, obviously there's the whole O.J. Simpson of it all as well, which is, when you watch the movies back, is very strange to see someone like O.J. Simpson in the movie with everything that happened after him. But if you love Airplane and you love Hot Shots, those kind of movies, Leslie Nielsen, I think, is the king of that kind of comedy. And they're the kind of movies that you, again, like Airplane, you can watch them, and there are so many jokes crammed in. I mean, I loved Police Squad, which was the TV show that the Naked Gun came from. But I think the first one obviously is the best. They were a bit like diminished as they kept going. Anna Nicole Smith in 33 and a third. Priscilla Presley obviously was in all of them as well. George Kennedy. But they're just so much fun.
They really
are. They're not as good as Airplane. It's a shame that Airplane didn't make a number 3, because I think that probably would have gone into my top 10 just for the sake of Airplane. But Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen, absolute king.
Yeah, there's a few of those that I think there's like 2 movies, and if there was a third one, they'd definitely been in the list. For me, it's 21 and 22 Jump Street. Like the day they make a 23 Jump Street, that's on my list.
The plan was to do a third one, but to do it mixed with Men in Black.
Men in Black, that's right.
Yeah.
That was the plan, wasn't it? But it never.
It was devastating
got
that didn't
scuppered
happen.
with
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Will Smith and Channing Tatum fighting aliens.
Wouldn't that be something?
Will Smith just running up and slapping aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd watch that. I'd pay money to go and see that.
Get your partner's name out.
Yeah, get Jenna During Tatum's name.
Yeah. Right then, Simon, your number 9 then, please.
Okay, my number 9. Okay, so my number 9 is one moment, please. Planet of the Apes.
Oh, right. Ones.
Okay. Great movie.
Yeah, is this on anyone's list?
Nearly was.
It was, but it's not in my top 10.
Okay, because for me, I have difficulty with movies where the concept isn't based in reality. And so the original Planet of the Apes I did have difficulty with. I needed a bit more lead up to everything that happened. And with this, the concept of it, testing for a cure for Alzheimer's, being tested on monkeys, and then them developing superhuman intelligence through that was a brilliant concept. And I just think as well, what's rare with those movies as well, the feel of them while they're growing with each one, because obviously the monkeys develop with each movie, the feel of them is consistent throughout. Now, there's 3 different directors for each of the movies as well, so that's even rarer, because often you get trilogies where there's a different director for each movie and there's a different feel for them. You see that with so many sequels and remakes, but yeah, it's consistent throughout. I just think as well the characterization of the monkeys as well, because they're all played by real actors.
Yeah.
And famous people that people won't even realize.
Yeah.
And the performances in the movies are just so magnificent. I think where that movie comes from, that small story of a man whose father has Alzheimer's, leading to dementia and trying to find a cure for it, and it leading to the end of the third movie with the monkeys taking over the planet, is just a magnificent art.
And the CG on the monkeys and the apes are amazing, because it's the fact that you see the eyes, and it's the eyes where it's Andy Serkis is fantastic in that.
Yes,
as he's Caesar. Is it Caesar?
He is Caesar.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there is some talk. I believe they're pre-production or getting ready to do the 4th, aren't they?
I think they're filming it. I think they're filming it now.
Yeah, filming it now, isn't it? Yeah.
Is it the battle? They're calling it Battle of the Planet of the Apes. I think,
that's
or something
it.
like that.
Battle of the Planets.
Battle of the Planets. God, yeah, I think so. Might be a bit too young to remember Battle of the Planets.
But I find the first movie out of that, Simon, quite sad.
Yeah,
I struggle with it. It is for sure. It breaks my heart too much.
It is, and it's subtle as well, that first movie, because it's called Planet of the Apes, and you think, oh, this is going to be, but it's not.
No,
it's a very slow progression, and it introduced the characters in such a nice way. It makes you feel for obviously his father, Dick from Third Rock from the Sun. Forget the actor's name.
John Lithgow.
Lithgow, of course.
Yeah.
He's brilliant in everything he's in. But
that last, I think it's the credit scene, isn't it? Which basically shows you how COVID swept the world.
Yeah.
It shows all the planes going off and they're all infected and everything. That shows you how it all just went all over the world. Oh yeah, it's
a good movie.
Really, really good. Really good. Go on then, Neil. You're number 9.
So this is the Vengeance trilogy. So Park Chan-wook's 3 films together. You got Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Old Boy, and Lady Vengeance. Now I've introduced Pav to Old Boy years ago. I still need him to see the other 2.
Yeah, I do need to, because Old Boy, that is an experience watching that movie.
It's a great film. It's a well-made film. Don't ever watch the remake with Josh Brolin who directed it? It was Spike Lee, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Awful remake. But Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance first, it sets it up. It's all there in what I said. Vengeance trilogy gives you an idea what each movie is about. I believe each got a little bit of a different, obviously got a bit of different story. Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Old Boy and Lady Vengeance. Sit back, take your thing off, know nothing about them, so I'm going to offer no spoilers in here, because if you do, you'll ruin the movie. Pav will tell you that.
Are they linked? Are the movies linked then?
Only with the tone, only with the subject of vengeance.
Of vengeance, right. So there's no recurring characters in all 3 of them?
No, but there's recurring actors, so it does throw you a bit, okay?
All right.
But Park Chan-wook, if you've never seen any of his films, I think he's one of the best directors we've around today. It's just beautiful filmmaking that he makes, and I just admire the chap so much. But yeah, it's put yourself, anyone listening, watching, and Simon, if you've not seen them, watch them in
I've
order.
never heard of these movies.
I'm not gonna. They're Korean, so they're subtitled.
Okay.
But as I say, Simon, Old Boy is the only movie I've ever watched where I physically stood up and had my hand over my mouth at a certain point.
Brilliant.
Physically, like, just dumbfounded me and made me question existence. And I've never had that. I've never had that with a movie before.
No, I don't
then
think
or
I have.
since. Yeah, so I would thoroughly recommend it. But like I say, I need to watch the other two as well. I really do.
they're
Well, I'm open
fantastic
to the
movies.
idea of subtitle movies now, thanks to sort of Parasite and Squid Games.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, if you
I'm sort of
like
open to it now.
Parasite, I mean, there's a lot of stylized visuals and everything in that's very reminiscent of what you're watching these
Okay.
two.
Yeah.
They're probably a bit more adult content. You know, they're a strong R or a strong 18, but they're not gratuitous, if that makes sense. For the
Right.
sake of it, it's all fits in, and it's all part of it. But yeah,
good
the
one.
acting, the story, just sublime.
Very good. Okay, my number 9. Now, I could have chosen one of 3 trilogies of this particular character, but I'm going to go with the Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Oh,
Just because I think that the quality of the movies, they don't. Well, if you look at, say, the Tobey Maguire one, Spider-Man 3 is the one that doesn't make it a great trilogy,
no.
because that's a really weak movie. Too much crammed into it. Not cohesive at all. First 2 are great movies. The third one lets it down. Obviously, the other one, there wasn't a trilogy, was there? It was only Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. But even if it's just for No Way Home, the third one in the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy, I think is a great movie in a time where, and I will come to this a little bit later on, but in a time where big budget movies are really 99% of the time they're let down. Over the last, since sort of post-COVID, that was the one that made me really happy that I saw it at the cinema, because it was just a fantastic movie from start to finish. Had heart, had laughs, had good fan moments, had some gut-wrenching emotional moments, and that really made it, that really topped off. I thought that the best movie of the trilogy was the third one, which is very rare that you'll get that. So for me, that's I think Tom Holland is my favorite, and the stuff he does in the Avengers movies and the other bits he's done for Marvel as well. That for me counts as he's my favorite Spider-Man, I think.
Yeah,
I did have Spider-Man on my list, but the original Tobey Maguire ones, but took it off for that reason of the third one, because it was a bit silly, that movie.
Yeah.
And also Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, I enjoyed those first 2 movies, and I was looking forward to the third one, with Rhino turning up at the end of the second one, and I was like, this third movie is going to be magnificent. And then, to be honest, I don't understand the exact reasons why the third one was never made. I understand there were contractual and behavioral issues that led to it not being made.
Yeah.
But yeah, this new Spider-Man, Tom Holland, I've only seen that third movie, and yeah, it was brilliant.
Yeah, I think it's good because he's young as well. He was when he started doing it, a youngster playing Peter Parker, where instead of Andrew Garfield, who was probably in his late 20s playing a teenager, which didn't ever seem to work.
Well, it was refreshing, wasn't it? Spider-Man, if you read the comic books or watch the old animation, it was a teenager.
Yeah,
there's no two ways about it. And alas, I don't even think Tobey Maguire properly pulled off the teenager look.
No.
Where Tom Holland came in, and it was refreshing to see just somebody that was Spider-Man as we knew and love. I'm not knocking either of the other 2 franchises, but yeah, and it's refreshing not to have a backstory again.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
Yeah.
It's the same when it comes to Batman. You don't need to see Batman's parents die, Bruce Wayne's parents die. You don't need to see Peter Parker getting bitten by the spider. You know that. It was good that it was just, they mention it a little bit, and then they just carry on.
Move on, isn't it? Yeah. No, it's a good choice, that is. There were 3 strong films.
Very, very. That's why it's my number 9. So, Simon, your number 8, please.
Okay. And yeah, my phone is old and riddled with viruses, which why it takes me to get this up each time. I should have just written it down on a piece of paper, but it's 2023, isn't it? My number 8, I think, might be another surprise.
Go on then.
Austin Powers.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that
Is this on either of your lists?
I very nearly it was. It was on my first list that I wrote down of the top whatever it was, however many.
I
But
genuinely didn't even think about Austin Powers. I genuinely didn't.
Well, no, that's it. I mean, this is the thing, because I am quite an aficionado in terms of the Academy, and I've always thought that it's ridiculous there is not a comedy award at the Oscars each year, when there is for Golden Globes, the precursor to the Oscars. But yeah, I mean, in terms of how iconic that movie is, in terms of redefining sort of, wow, I suppose with James Bond already being technically a parody, I suppose you can't say it, created the parody aspect of it. They redefined it in terms of it parodying and pastiching every aspect of the movie.
Yeah.
Like every second of that is a pastiche or a play on something, and it's iconically funny. There's so many scenes and moments in those movies. The music, completely of that era, and obviously Mike Myers, his performances, playing so many different characters, and creating, great story, but also capturing that era and bringing it to a new generation as well. Because I think when you had movies that were pastiches of the 1960s, it represented, that era. But in this way, it brought it to modern times. Obviously, with the time travel element, we did that. But yeah, I just think that movie is easily forgotten. Austin Powers is easily forgotten because my Myers aren't around anymore. He don't make movies. And again, I'm not sure the exact reasons for that. But I wish there was an Austin Powers 4. I'd definitely.
Well, news has it that he's preparing it, isn't it?
Well, no, I've heard that he wants to do it, so I don't understand why.
Well, it's because everything he's done sort of since Cat in the Hat has basically bombed.
Yeah.
Has not made any money at the box office, including the new series he did on Netflix.
The Pentaveret or something, wasn't it? Yeah, which didn't.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what?
Good
Yeah, I went to watch that and I was excited about the concept of that. But then the first 2 episodes, there was a moment in the first one where all of it was bad. And there was a single moment where I was like, okay, maybe there's something in it. The second episode, there was a moment that was so original. I was like, that could only have come from Mike Myers' mind. And so I'll carry on watching it. But then the third episode was so bad, I just thought, I can't do this anymore.
But this is what everybody's saying. They're worried if he does finally make this Austin Powers 4. Not only has it been 20 years ago since the last one.
2023.
Yeah, they also say he hasn't.
It was.
Yeah, so they haven't even been funny for 20 years.
Yeah,
but no, that's it. And also looking at him now, like I've seen a few appearances, and his face is like the Botox and all sorts.
Yeah. He doesn't look like Austin Powers, or like Mike Myers. But no, I mean, as movies, I always love the start of number 3, where it's Tom Cruise, and Gwyneth Paltrow, and directed by Steven Spielberg, and then the song starts and Spielberg is hop, skipping, and jumping and doing backwards somersaults and stuff. It's great. Although, again, Danny DeVito, but it's Kevin Spacey as well. So you always leaves you a little bit of a dirty feeling in your mind when you see. No, I didn't mean like that, but you know what I mean with what he's going. I'll shut up. Anyway, Neil, you're number 8.
I don't expect me to got any Kevin Spacey movies on this list. To be honest,
Hands off my hiney, baby.
Yeah.
So my number 8 is the Dead trilogy: Night, Dawn, and Day. Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead. You know how much I love these. We spoke about them very recently on our zombie episode, which you can get.
We did.
I was going to say these are zombies. I know that.
Yeah, this is the George A. Romero's original trilogy of zombie movies. They're all fantastic. I believe you watched Night of the Living Dead recently, didn't you, Pav?
No, I never got a chance. I've downloaded it on the Patreon.
Okay.
It's up on YouTube, so on the Patreon video playlist you can watch the whole movie. I haven't actually got to watching it all yet. Right,
which they're all great. They're all a social commentary of the time. So you've got something from the end of the '69, I think it was. So sort of commentary on the racism, on Vietnam, all sorts. And then you got Dawn of the Dead, which is a commentary on capitalism and spending, and you'll see it. And then Day of the Dead, which is obviously more military minded with the commentary, but they're also great stories, great horror. Do you like your horror, Simon?
Not so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
I won't start recommending you horror then. But these, I think anybody can watch these. They are zombie movies, they are gory, but they're very well written, they're very well acted.
Halloween time, I'll watch a horror movie.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
But the
rest
first
of the
one's
year,
in
no.
black and white, so it won't scare you.
I mean,
So when was
the
that
thing
from?
is, though, yeah, that was
68, 69,
68,
I think.
69.
Wow.
But if you don't like those kind of things, Neil, then it puts the willies up you, doesn't it? It really does.
And who doesn't mind the willies put up them, eh?
Oh, God, Neil, you are something else. I'll ding that anyway. Okay, my number 8, we're staying with the superheroes. I so wanted to put the Avengers in my thing, but of course, you've got Avengers, you've got Age of Ultron, but then the other bit is in 2 bits, isn't it? So you've got there's 4 movies, so I couldn't put them in there.
Well,
so
we
I've gone
could forget about Age of Ultron for you.
well, no, because that's still officially number 2. You can't do that. So I'm gone for Captain America. So Captain America: First Avenger, Captain America: Winter Soldier, and then Captain America: Civil War. 3 great movies, but 3 very different movies. All, you know, the First Avenger is very much steeped in the history of the character of Captain America. The second one is more of a political thriller, and then the third one is the first time that Marvel decided to do a balls out, let's see how many characters we can fit into one movie. The introduction of Spider-Man, just some of the revelations of what happens with Tony Stark's parents, so many good things, and the fact that it became then the Avengers were sort of fractious and were breaking up because of the internal struggles. Just 3 great movies, and I kind of hanker back to those simpler times when Marvel just had one kind of through line instead of all these different shows branching off and people not knowing what's here and what's there, and just such a strong storyline that they were building to Avengers Endgame. And yeah, I kind of miss that simplicity, if you like, of the storytelling of Marvel, because now it's just all over the place and I've really just sort of lost interest now. But those 3 movies are very, very strong for me.
Very, especially the second one, Winter Soldier. I think it's really strong.
It's such a good film.
Robert Redford, we forget, is in that one, isn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched that one again not so long ago. That whole scene with Nick Fury when he's escaping in the car.
Yeah.
It's just so well directed. The Russo
So
brothers,
good.
wasn't it? Their
Yeah.
first.
That was their first
foray
one. Yeah, that was their first
into-
one. So Simon, you a Marvel fan?
I've been to the cinema to watch Marvel movies, like when the opportunity arises. But I haven't followed the the franchise through to the end game, which I think is the intention.
Yeah.
So I've sort of dipped in now. Yeah, I think yeah, the one where I think all the Fantastic Four come together in a movie about 10 years ago.
Right, yeah.
something
This
that happened?
this is probably a little bit longer than 10 years for the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I
that
went
was-
to watch that. But yeah, leading up to Endgame, I haven't. It's something that I hear was a magnificent
it's
pinnacle of that.
unbelievable.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely
something that
unbelievable.
again, if I do
I mean,
follow through with
yeah,
watching all these movies that are on here,
that'll
that I've
take you a
seen.
little bit longer. That will, because you've got 27 movies or something to catch up. You've got 10 years worth of
Really?
movies to catch up. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, wait,
I think I
So
would.
how's this a trilogy? Is this?
How is
I
this
just
a
watched-
trilogy? Yeah, so Captain America had 3 of his own movies, which
Oh,
are these
okay.
3. I mean, Thor
Yeah.
has had 3 of his own movies. No, 4
Oh,
of
I
his own
see.
movies. Iron Man's had 3 of his own movies. Who else has? Oh, Guardians of the Galaxy have had 3 of their own movies. So, but they all intertwine in storyline and culminating in, like I say, like the Avengers movies, basically. But
Yeah, that's it. I like it, the whole idea of such a, massive universe that's been created over decades, culminating into one
yeah,
moment
Yeah.
is an amazing.
but now sort of post Endgame, it's become such a mess.
Oh, really?
So many different things with TV shows and
It's getting confusing now.
It's getting very confusing. And
Yeah.
Is it
very-
owned
and
by
very-
Disney now?
And very
I was
boring.
going to say,
find
I
it.
wasn't sure, but I imagine that's what's happened.
Yeah, yeah.
It's what happens with most things. Disney buys it and then just milks it to death.
We might get onto that a little bit later on, but
Yeah.
okay then, Simon, you're number 7.
My number 7 may actually be another surprise. Men in Black.
Oh wow, okay.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting one.
Now, I love the Men in Black franchise. I mean, when it came round, just peak Will Smith. He was right at the top of his game in number 1. Every single movie that come out, you were guaranteed a great soundtrack from him. He released a single with each movie, which, that was such an original idea. And the feel of that first movie, it's for fans of different genres, really. You could be a fan of science fiction, just be a fan of Will Smith, just be a fan of action movies. And it was just brilliant the way it brought everything together. Now I'm invested in the idea of Men in Black because the very concept of, this shadow government that turns up after, alien visitations and then, makes people stop talking about it, is a very real concept. And that they made a movie about it and put it out in the public consciousness, I think is fascinating. If it is real. But of course, the second movie, we got to talk about that because that wasn't what you would expect from a sequel to such a great first movie. Now, I think the performances from the people in that, fine, but it was the story. They took the bits that people seem to like from the first movie and just elaborated some random things like the dog, and it was just too cartoonish. The CGI in it suffered from because it was going through another renaissance of CGI, and it was just like everything was CGI all of a sudden. Whereas the first one was done so well, without using as much CGI as the second movie. The third movie, introducing the new concept of time travel into the series, bit of a risk, but actually made it. And I think that performance from Jermaine Clement in it as well, that's something that really, given to another actor, might not have worked, but he really nailed that and made that movie. The performance of is it Josh Brolin?
Josh Brolin, plays a young
Tommy Lee Jones.
I thought he was really good. I thought he was really
good. This is the funny thing as well. I mean, obviously Will Smith has won an Oscar now, but that performance from him, not Will Smith, from Josh Brolin playing younger Tommy Lee Jones, I think that was Oscar worthy. Like, I think that performance, the portrayal of him, was just incredible. And if you watch that movie just from that point of view, watching his performance is magnificent just from that point of view. But the story's brilliant. Will Smith back to his best in it, and it's great that we got to see that before everything that's come since with him.
Was it Sonnenfeld, wasn't it, who directed them?
Yeah,
Barry
Sonnenfeld.
Did he do them all, did he?
Good question. I think he did, yeah.
According to my research, he did, because I was interested into why there was such a different feel between the second and third movies and the first one. And I thought, it must be a different director. But according to my research, it was the same person.
And of course, there was a number 4. There was that Men in Black International that
died.
What
a great movie that was.
Yeah, I was flying back from somewhere and I caught that on the thing, and I was like, this is actually great, new Men in Black. But it was dreadful. Definitely up there with the worst movies I've seen in my life.
I've never finished it. I actually turned it off.
I didn't finish it.
I think I was the same.
Nonsense.
I think I was the same. But that is a good one. That is a good one. Thinking about it, I mean, I enjoyed the third one a lot more than I think I was preparing myself for. Do you know what I mean? It didn't seem to, but it had a nice little storyline.
It brought everything together nicely from the first movie as well. Yeah,
absolutely.
Shows why Tommy Lee Jones was so interested in him originally. Why he was cherry picked.
Yeah.
Because if you watch that first movie, you're like, why it's Will Smith? So yeah, of course it's him. But then it comes to third movie, it's like, that's why.
Yeah, that's very good. Go on then, Neil. You're number 7.
So I've got a superhero trilogy. It's Nolan's Batman trilogy.
Got that too.
Batman Begins, Dark Knight, and Dark Knight Rises.
What number is that for you, Simon?
Number 3.
Number 3. Okay.
Yeah, very high.
So I think, and I still think, Burton's original Batman is the Batman movie of all time. I think it's the perfect Batman movie. I don't think it'll ever be top because it is the essence of what we know as Batman, or I knew as Batman and everything. But it was nice to have a refreshing take on Batman, and that's what Nolan did. He brought a bit of realism. and everything into it. And obviously the villains are bad guys, but they're not cartoon villains as they were sort of in the comic book, and brought everything grounded and down. And then when he bought the IMAX cameras into it, and I mean, I went with your brother, Path. We queued for ages and went to, I think it was a 4 a.m. showing of the first week of The Dark Knight at the IMAX. I've never been so blown away of a screening of a film before in my life, of seeing that in true IMAX scale. And it just, Nolan is a bit of a genius. I know Batman, The Dark Knight Rises is problematic and doesn't make a whole lot of sense throughout it, and it's got some stupid bit, but it's also, remember, it's got some fantastic set pieces and shows what Nolan really can do. But yeah, I love them. I think they're great. They could have been stronger with the third one, but the other two are great. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's it. The atmosphere and the general feel of those movies, the Zimmer music, yeah, just magnificent. Like you say, set pieces as well. Like when you're watching the movie, you sort of forget what's coming up, and then you're like, oh God, it's going to be that bit. And yeah,
I'm back to practical effects, which was really nice, because obviously we all get a little bit, but I know it's got CGI in it. I'm not naive, but a lot of the truck in the street and the car chases and the bat bike and the tumbler, they're all practical effects. And how we miss those practical effects, or well, thankfully they're coming back a bit. But
well, I would say this would have been in my top 10 if it hadn't been for Dark Knight Rises. Dark Knight Rises for me is one of the worst movies ever made. It makes me angry with some of the plot holes, some of the ridiculous things that never. Oh, don't get me started.
You got Anne Hathaway as Catwoman.
It doesn't matter. Batman is supposed to be there to protect the city, and he has one little thing that goes wrong, so he locks himself away for years and years and years because he's got a bad back, which he's able to sort himself out like that. All of a sudden, he's able to sort himself out like that. And
that's it. I think it suffered a lot from hype. I think because of what happened, obviously, with the first Batman. The second Batman. With
the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight was of a level that very few
but
filmmakers.
Even that's got a poor ending.
Oh, it's got, but what I'm saying is as when you go from that movie, and Simon's absolutely right. I think when the last one came out, everyone's going, "My God, this is going to be as good, if not better, than The Dark Knight Rises."
Well, that's it. I think it's something from Heath Ledger's
Batman
performance being so iconic.
Yeah,
and I think the reality is that the ending wasn't good in the second movie, but I think the intention was for him to come back.
Yeah,
and I think the third movie suffered from that because obviously it had to be rewritten.
Yeah, because he literally left him hanging, didn't it? At the end of
that's exactly
the second
right.
movie. So
yeah. So in the guy coming in the third movie, Kane, is that right?
Bane.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy. Yeah.
Tom Hardy.
Getting mixed up with WWE. And it's because of his voice as well. I always think of Krang from the Turtles in the way that he talks.
Oh, but God, I mean, I can remember when that first came out because everyone was saying that you couldn't hear what he was saying.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Yeah, for sure. But I also think that they expected whoever come in to do the villain in that was going to give another Oscar-worthy performance.
That's right.
And box office wise, it didn't suffer from it. It still made more.
Oh, absolutely.
The previous movie.
But everybody wanted to see it, and famously filmed on IMAX. But I'm going to be controversial anyway, and I don't think Heath Ledger's the best Joker anyway. There you go. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, you're just ready to make war, aren't you, Neil? That's all you want to do.
Well, I think he's topped by two people. One is young Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
And the other's the lead singer of 30 Seconds to Mars. Yeah.
No. Jesus, let's forget about his Joker.
Let's forget about all of that stuff.
Yeah, they didn't even
Jack
do
Nicholson
that.
Is your favorite.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Not Cesar Romero. You don't want to go with that one.
I love Cesar Romero, but the problem I had with his moustache.
Yeah, he wouldn't ever shave his tash off. Of course he wouldn't. Okay, my number 7. I haven't seen number 4 of this one yet, but I'm going with John Wick. And I don't think there's ever a movie where they made the first one, and I'm pretty sure 99% of the people that were making that movie when they made the first one ever thought that there was going to be a second, third, fourth, or the fifth one that they're talking about doing now. It was just going to be a simple little movie about a guy, spoilers, who gets his dog killed, so he goes on this rampageous revenge killing spree. And the fact that the movies, I wouldn't say they get better, because John Wick for me is just a classic movie on its own. But every one of those movies has got something intriguing about it, and again, great kills, and it's just all about John Wick is just going to kill everybody that has wronged him, and anybody that gets in his way, he's just gonna, because he's the bogeyman, and that's all that matters. And I love the simplicity.
Grows, doesn't it?
I love the simplicity of those things, but also I love the stunt work in those movies are just like second to none. So you're gone now.
I was going to say, have you watched the videos of Keanu doing the gun training?
Yes.
On YouTube. Oh, it's phenomenal the amount of work that guy puts into that role.
I'll put those on the video playlist for this episode.
But they are. This very nearly went into my top 10. It really did. I think they're just superb movies and they're so much fun. But like you, haven't seen the fourth one, and the director's cut's coming out, isn't it? The full version. Which
is it?
So it's like 3 hours anyway, isn't it? And it's going to about 3 hours 20 minutes now.
Simon, you a John Wick fan?
No, you can probably tell from my silence. I've not seen the John Wicks. I know Keanu Reeves is in it. And
sorry, I didn't mean to spoil the first one for you. Then I'm sorry.
Oh no, no, that was good. It was like I was watching a trailer, and I was like, John Wick is dog, and now he's going to take revenge on. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can get on board with that. So yeah.
It's such a simple idea. That's the thing. It's such a simple idea.
It's good to hear that they're that good. Like I had no idea. Like I knew it was a movie, but I was like, Keanu Reeves. I was like, but
you'll never see gunfights like it ever again. People will try. People will try, but they won't do it like John Wick does it. It's crazy, crazy violent. It almost become numb.
When I'm watching it, because I can't even imagine what they haven't done with guns.
They've done everything you could. It's like ballet with guns. I mean, if you think of the old John Woo films from years ago, and now he did gunplay, and we were all like, "Oh, that's really good," or Robert Rodriguez in like Desperado, and you're thinking, "Oh Christ, that's amazing." This just knocks it straight out of the park. This is like, this is how you do it, kids.
Yeah. I think you're really onto something with ballet with guns, because everyone would go and watch that at a theatre.
It's also the fact, I mean, Keanu Reeves has got two types. He's got the ones where he doesn't say much in his movies, and they're normally really, really good. And then there's movies where he has to act, and they're not normally good. This is one of the ones where he hardly has anything to say. He doesn't say much, but it's the fact that all of the people that know John Wick, as soon as like they say his name, they shit themselves, because he's got this reputation of being the bogeyman. And it's Baba Yaga or something they call it. I would recommend, even if it's just the first one, if you just watch the first one, Simon, I thoroughly recommend it, because it's loads of fun. It really is. Okay then, your number 6 then, please, Simon.
Okay, my number 6 is Scream.
Oh, okay.
Great trilogy.
Yeah, so I know I said I'm really into horror movies, but this actually, like when the first one came out, and I watched it when it first came out, it was phenomenal. It sort of did redefine the horror genre, and also, again, parodying previous movies of that genre.
That's right. That was the whole point,
and the way the first scene, and again, creating a formula that works. The same way I said about Final Destination, in that Scream introduces the character. You're like, all right, who's this character? This is the one we're going to be following throughout the movie. Kills him off in the first scene. Like, when's that been done before? And that was, it is absolutely iconic now. Like, even now they're making 4, 5, and 6. You want to see that first scene, see the way it sets up the movie.
And it's terrifying, that first scene.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely scary.
But yeah, the twists, the reveals at the end, the formula is just magnificent. And again, Wes Craven, the way he makes a certain kind of movie and creates that atmosphere and creates that universe as well. And the way that mixed in the third movie, where it mixes with them making their own movie of the original movie. Love stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
you're always second guessing, aren't you? You're always second guessing stuff on the screen. Thinking, I can remember. I think I've said this before. You look at a character, and you think, I reckon they're the ones that did it, and then they die, they get killed, and you think, ah, shit, right? I reckon it's that person that's done it.
Have you guys seen the newer ones?
I haven't. No,
I haven't seen the newest one set in New York, but I have seen the one before.
Oh yeah. I was excited for that, and I did watch that, and I'll tell you what as well. The way they keep going through like each character, making you think it's them. And then at the end, revealing it is, you're like, hold on, I knew it's them, but I wrote them off because I was like, no, it couldn't be.
That's
Yeah,
the way to
it's
do it,
crazy.
though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes you second guess.
Yeah, the way he does twists, and you can watch like the older movies, like 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, and you'll have forgotten who the killers were, and you're still
Right.
thinking the same way because you sort of forgotten. You're like, no, it can't have been him because, but then it comes around, and you're like, oh no, of course it was. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think those movies are brilliant. The way with the twists is, yeah. I don't think anyone does it better.
That's a great
Kevin Williamson, wasn't it, who wrote
Kevin
them? He sort of
Williamson, that's right.
reinvented loads of stuff because he did The Faculty as well, didn't he?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
If you've ever seen that, it was a good fun sort of change on the teenage high school movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
great movies. Great
Very
movies.
good, very good. Go on then, Neil. You're number 6.
So this will probably I'll get shot down in flames for not being higher, but it's Back to the Future trilogy.
That's my number 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's well, would it be a spoiler to say how high it is for me?
Well, you can
Is it
keep
higher
it quiet.
than number 2?
Yeah.
Right, okay, we'll
stay
keep that quiet
You
then.
can
I mean,
talk
it's
about
spoilers.
this later,
I mean,
Simon.
yeah.
You can talk about it later. But yeah, I love this trilogy. Who doesn't love this trilogy? It's it's a time when this came out, I think I was 14. Went to see it, loved it, fell in love with it, and then we waited a couple more years, and then we had 2 back to back. The whole cast worked well together, everything, and it's such a romp. It's such a family, what I call a great family entertainment, and we don't
Perfect
make enough
movie.
of them. It is a perfect movie.
Perfect movie.
It is. The first one is a perfect movie. Yeah, and I think all 3 together are as strong as bones. I must watch them again recently. It's been a couple of years, and I've realised my son said I've never watched Back to the Future, and I double took and realised.
No, I think that's got to be the whole point of having kids is so you can, introduce them to those sorts of movies. Oh God, yeah, I'd be thinking, bloody hell, like American Pie's coming up next for him. But yeah, let's see how they react to this. But I mean, with Back to the Future, I just think in terms of movies that capture your imagination, just limitless possibilities. And at the time, of course, it was talking about the future. What, 2019? Is that right?
2015.
2015. Jesus.
Yeah.
And looking at the future, well, now we're watching it with a complete different perspective, I suppose. But back then, you talk about flying cars. You're talking about, video calls, which obviously we have now. Looking back, flat screen TVs, all the technology. There was a fingerprint recognition, drones.
We even got the self-lacing trainers now, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder whether that would have.
No,
that wouldn't have been a thing if it hadn't have been for Back to the Future.
No, they tried to make they made those for the 2015 anniversary.
Yeah.
The one thing I hope is that it's a trilogy that A, doesn't get remade, and B, there's never episode 4. There doesn't need to be. It needs to be. It just needs to be stuck like that. But I don't want them to remake it either, because what's the point?
One day it'll come.
No,
it'll come. It'll come.
Yeah, I think it was a sort of a magic in a bottle moment as well. I think when you look at how it was made as well, so much of it was just had to be done like right now, or it couldn't happen kind of thing. Michael J. Fox's schedule at the time, they had to film a lot of it at night because he was filming another TV show during the day.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's why a lot of it is at night time. But of course that makes for a lot of the scenes.
And you had the whole Eric Stoltz of it all as well, that it wasn't going to be Michael J. Fox. And
oh, yeah, I love stuff like that, especially when you can actually see videos of them as them. It's like looking at an alternate universe.
Yes, exactly.
Where this person played that part. Yeah,
exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah, so good.
But it's very Spielberg. I know he's only the producer, he wasn't the director, but it's very Spielberg-esque. It's at that time
that's right.
when movie making was just... They knew what they were doing, and they were given free reign to do it. Studios really weren't sticking their nose in. We talked about Spider-Man 3, where there's a perfect example of what happened when a studio takes over the production.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
So that was
and I think the way that the second and third were filmed like directly after one another.
That's right.
And how the first and second also, correspond with each other. How you're going back into the first movie when you're in the second movie. I think that's all magnificent.
Yeah. There's a great line in Avengers Endgame where it's all about time travel, and they say, so Back to the Future is just a bunch of bullshit, because they're talking about that you can't go back and talk to yourself when you go back to the
the paradoxes that Back to the Future gets you to think about.
But then when you start thinking about it, you should, like in Austin Powers, when they say you shouldn't think about it too much, when it's things like what happens if you go and meet your previous person. Again, it's like the Dial of Destiny, but let's not go into that. Yeah. Okay, my number 6, yippee-ki-yay, motherfuckers. It's Die Hard. I'm gonna have Die Hard as that one. I love the first movie. Again, it's one of those perfect movies. Die Hard.
A perfect movie.
Number 2 is my least favorite of the 3 because I really love number 3 as well, with Samuel L. Jackson. But it's one of those franchises that should have stayed at 3 movies. They shouldn't have bothered making 4 and 5. Was it
5? No, yeah, 5 is truly.
I think there is 5. Yeah,
and there was talking of a John McClane year 1, weren't they? But obviously Bruce Willis is now incapacitated of sorts, so that's never going to happen. Which is not a good thing that he's incapacitated, but it's a good thing that they're not going to go back to that well, because the first movie is like Back to the Future. It's a perfect movie. It's a perfectly put together piece of art, as far as I'm concerned. It's just a fantastic piece of cinema. The second one's a lot of fun, but the third one for me is a great romp around New York City. It's just so good, and Jeremy Irons is great as a bad guy.
But it wasn't originally written as a Die Hard movie, was it? Simon Says, wasn't it?
Right,
the original script.
Absolutely. I think I've got a copy of the original script up in the loft.
Yeah, they sold it, didn't they? I think I bought it.
Yeah. Okay, before we carry on, it's now time for this.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Yes, pop quiz, hot shot. It's quiz time, Simon. Are you ready? How are you with quizzes?
Usually quite good.
Well, here we go then. We'll put that to the test. It's first 1 to 3. If you get the answer wrong, it goes over to your opponent. And we will start with you, Simon. Do you want to go first or second?
First.
You're going to go first. Here we go then. What was Neo's official name in the Matrix trilogy world?
Wasn't it Anderson?
Can I have the full name, please? I need the full name. Come on, Simon.
No, I don't think that's going to come to me.
No?
It will after you say it.
Okay, Neil?
I think it's John, isn't it? Or is that just the bloke from Gladiators?
No, John Anderson is the lead singer of Yes.
Yes.
John and Vangelis.
Or it's not John.
Thomas Anderson.
Tom. Yeah, well, we all knew it was.
That's a half point for me.
Dear. I'm afraid we don't give out half points. It's 0 and 1, Simon. We're just doing binary numbers here. Neil, for you. What is the title of the third movie in the Dollars Western trilogy?
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
It is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. 1 to you. Simon. Oh, shit. Okay. 1985, 1955, and what other year is featured in the Back to the Future trilogy?
2050?
Correct. That was just the way that it went. So, I mean, there's nothing I can do about that. It's 1-1. Neil, here's your question. What is the name of the hotel that features heavily in the John Wick franchise?
Christ. Oh my God.
Yeah, I love it when you get people.
I know this.
I'll have to hurry you.
It's begins with a C, I think.
Yeah, most good words begin with
the Continental.
C. It is the Continental. You pulled that one out of the bag.
Oh.
Okay, Simon. What is the first word that appears on the opening crawl of Star Wars: A New Hope?
In.
It's not. Neil, for the win.
Rebel? Oh.
No. It is It.
Oh.
It is a period of civil war is the first line. So who was that? That was yours, Simon, wasn't it? So over to you then, Neil, for the win. In Lord of the Rings, to defeat Sauron, you have to cast the One Ring into the fires of where?
Mordor. Oh no.
No. Simon?
Oh yeah, I don't know. Um, Fires of Hell.
It's Mount Doom,
Mount Doom.
which I'm assuming which is in Mordor, I believe, but unfortunately it had to be specifically Mount Doom. Okay, Simon. What is the name of the strawberry-coloured bear voiced by Ned Beatty in Toy Story 3?
No idea. Pink bear with no, I was just thinking of what he could be called. So a pink bear, Cuddles.
It's not. Neil for the win.
Straubs? I don't know. I can't remember.
It's Lotso.
Oh, no.
Lotso. Okay then, Neil for the win. Who played Venom in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3?
Oh my God. What's his name? I was about to say it. I'm sure I had it on the end
This
of my
could be the
tongue.
first time I run out of questions, just to let you know.
Oh, God, I can picture the actor.
I bet you can.
I can. I can't think of his name now. No, go on. We'll be
No,
afraid.
Simon?
No, I don't know. Bruce Willis.
No, it's not. It's Topher Grace.
Topher Grace.
Topher Grace. So,
He,
Simon,
he was in something else. Topher Grace. I've heard that name.
Topher Grace as well. He was in. He's been in loads of things. I think.
Yeah, I've
was it
seen him
the
in
70s,
something.
70s show he was in, something like that. I
Could
think.
have
I
been.
think that's it.
Anyway, so I've got one question left. So, Simon, if you get this right, then it's a draw. Okay. It's going to be a tough one. I don't think you have to really going to have to, really get your brain sorted for this one. Who played young Agent K in Men in Black 3?
Josh Brolin.
Is correct. He pulled it out of the bag with 2 questions and 2 answers that we've spoken about literally 15 minutes ago, but well done.
Well done.
It was 2-2. There you go. That's it. I've got no more questions left.
I
So
just
I'll do-
don't seem to ever win these, but never mind.
There you go. There you go. Okay, back to the job in hand. And Simon, you're number 5, please.
I'm not gonna have a break after that. God, I feel like it's
Oh God,
sweating.
no, we're straight onto it.
And number 5 is The Matrix.
Okay.
Is this on your lists?
No.
No, mainly because of number 2 and number 3.
3.
Oh no, yeah, I thought it would be. So a new concept again. The simulation. The idea that we are living in a simulation. And again with Men in Black, where I said they're showing you exactly what's going on in a movie and no one's paying attention. Same with The Matrix. We're living in a simulation. There's a movie about it. And everyone's like, oh, that was a good movie. Get on with our lives. And yet, however many years, we're talking 25 years now, since the original movie. And that idea, it still keeps coming up. Science still talks about it. It's becoming increasingly, likely that we're living in a simulation that is created by artificial intelligence. And all of a sudden, we're seeing the rise of artificial intelligence, that we've been warned by futurologists that if we don't control artificial intelligence, then it will eventually take over the world. And that is exactly what that's about.
Yeah.
And, quarter of a century later, no one's done anything about it. And we every day it's learning more and more and becoming more and more intelligent, and yet there's no cap to it, and we can't stop it. But yeah, in terms of a cinematography point of view, it's very good as well. It's obviously introduced the concept of bullet time. Again, Keanu Reeves and his bullets.
There you go.
Yeah. Guns. We need guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Will Smith as well, because he was originally, asked to play Neo and turned it down to make Wild Wild West, which gave us a great single, Wiki Wiki Wild Wiki Wild 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 West.
Yeah.
But how different a movie it would have been.
Yeah.
Because it was when Will Smith was at his peak, and you can imagine what kind of movie this would have been if Will Smith was in it. So I think in terms of an historical artifact, I think it's
Mm.
good that it was Keanu Reeves and he was able to, give us the trilogy we saw. I haven't seen the fourth movie. I don't know if anyone has. I hear it's
Yes.
not very good. I
I
hear it
saw the
didn't do very
fourth
well at
one.
the box office.
Yeah,
I thought it was
saw
better than 2 and 3.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah,
The funny thing about 2 and 3 is, I will say, is the concept was weaker. It got diluted with each
Mm.
movie. The second movie, it was more having all the Agent Smiths piling on top of Neo, and that was the big moment of the movie.
And that
The
looks
third
really
movie was,
bad. That's dated really
that is
bad.
bad.
and the
Yeah,
third movie is, let's have it raining while they're fighting, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, cool, but what's the movie about? It's like, doesn't matter. It's all green and rainy.
it seemed to get a little bit overstuffed. The third one, it seemed,
Yeah.
and it seemed to be trying to be too clever for its own good, kind of thing. And the first one, just like what we've mentioned for other ones, the first one is a perfect movie. It is as a
groundbreaking
standalone
perfect
movie on its own. It is just such a good movie. But yeah, I couldn't put it in my top 10 just because of just the diminished returns of number 2 and then number 3, and then I watched number 4, and again, it's like I said about movies of the last year or so. It just did nothing for me. I don't know why. It just didn't.
I mean, I'm not saying it was a great movie, but to me, it was better than 2 and 3.
Oh right, okay, that's fair enough. Go on then, Neil, number 5.
So I'm with Lord of the Rings, but I'm going to go the extended trilogy because I much prefer those movies over the cut ones. But I think they're perfect, well written. Was a fan of the books, read the books. I think they did a mighty good job. Still a good section of practical effects. I'll bang on about practical effects. I'm not a huge CGI effects person. Don't mind it when it complements practical effects, but
then
great
again, there is a hell of a lot of CGI in
there is,
Lord of the
but
Rings as well.
it sort of blends well. Even watching it now, it hasn't dated. It blends very well. I know, like the cave troll, and that's a bit, but it works well because it was, we know that there was a whole horde of real people dressed as orcs,
yeah,
and then multiplied and everything like that. It's good filmmaking. It's Peter Jackson. You could see his graft when he did Bad Taste, Brain Dead, Meet the Feebles, and then went into The Frighteners. I don't know whether anybody's. I mean, I think that's a really Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox, yeah.
But you can see where he was starting to get the principle of the photography of Lord of the Rings, the effects and everything sorted. But the extended explain it more. I don't think they dwell or they're dull, even though some of our friends and that say their film's just about walking. I think it's a bit more than that. I love them. I love them. He nearly undid all the good work with The Hobbit. He very nearly did, but we can forget that they even exist. The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Great movies.
I don't know about you. So I mean, whether it's I'll be strung up for it, but it's not in my top 10. Lord of the Rings. I enjoy the movies, but it's the same as like Game of Thrones and things like that. It's too many names, and I just get confused a little bit. You know what I'm like, Neil. I'm a simple soul. What about you, Simon?
I'll be honest. It's not in my top 10 either. But then I haven't seen him. I know the story. Darth Vader goes to Hogwarts, flies into the 2 towers. I get all that, but no, it's one of those ones where, again, from an Academy point of view, I appreciate its art.
Yeah.
And so it's something like, it's one of those ones where you know how long it is, you know how much of a commitment it is, and it seems like a big deal to watch it.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those where I'm building up to watch it. I've been building up to watch it for a long time.
Yeah, I think especially the extended versions because they're like 4.5 hours each, aren't they?
Someone gave me a book to read on a plane once, and it was massive.
Yeah,
and I didn't even open it. It was ridiculous.
Oh dear. Okay, so my number 5 was Back to the Future. So we're back to you, Simon, for number 4.
Okay. I think my number 4 is going to be a bit of a surprise. I don't think it's going to be on your guys' lists. But it's actually American Pie.
Okay.
I like the first movie. I think the first movie is great.
Well, no, that's it. But I love the American Pies. I grew up with them. Like, American Pie 1 came out when I was in my last year of high school. American Pie 2 came out when I went to college. And American Pie 3 came out after I left college. And my God, grown up with those movies. I could talk about them all day. If you want to do a top 10 of things about American Pie, I'd love that. But I mean, the way they came together, I mean, starting with how, you know, the movie came about, it just came from them writing a script in college about their experiences in college. It pitched it to studios as a movie you can make on a small budget, but I think people are going to love. You know, it was a budget of 10 million, which in 1999 was relatively small. It made 100 million, second one 100 million, third 100 million, and there was basically, you know, it's what you call a sleeper hit, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
In the, you know, they don't expect the success, but then word of mouth spreads it. And look at American Pie, another cultural phenomenon where it just redefined the genre. It brought back those teen comedies to, you know, movie-going audience when they thought they were dead, because all those movies from back in the sort of 80s, you know, there'd been nothing since. But this brought it back, and it brought it, you know, back to the point where, you know, this movie was parodied by so many movies that came since. They made an entire, you know, movie franchise of parodying, you know, teen comedies after that.
Yeah.
And the careers it launched, you know, these kids came out of nowhere. You know, Sean William Scott, Jason Biggs, Alison Hannigan, you know, people, they didn't see this coming. And watching those movies, like that first scene where they're sitting in dog years, you know, and if you watch that first scene, they got sweat on their faces because it's the first time they ever filmed like a movie. All of them, all these kids, and film that you can see how nervous they are, and you know what's coming afterwards. You know this movie is going to blow up, and you're literally watching that movie from that point of view, thinking these guys don't know what's coming. It's going to change their lives. And watching that movie from that point of view, the way they're talking about the experiences through high school and how that's going to change their lives, and you're reading from the so many different aspects. And yeah, literally anybody who's in those movies, I'll watch anything they've done. Sean William Scott, I actually absolutely love. And and the thing is, while we know none of them are like great actors, none of them are going to be Oscar winners. But in those moments, God, they gave everything they got to those movies, and I absolutely love it. The soundtracks as well, the music that you got introduced to because of it. You know, Blink 182, Third Eye Blind, all those bands that are on those soundtracks that just make the movies. There are iconic moments in the movies as well, and that's before we're even talking about those iconic moments in the American Pie movie.
Yeah,
and you could do a top 10. Yeah, absolutely.
With the apple pie.
Yeah.
But that was the start of the gross out comedy, wasn't it? When you could show things more than you did before. That, and there's something about Mary sort of changed comedy to the way that, you know, we
more
saw
of an
before.
Adult comedy kind of thing.
Treated us as grown-ups and could show things that you didn't normally show.
Yeah.
And not worry about it.
I haven't gone back and seen them for a long time. I wonder if they still hold up. Because they've got to be like 25 years old, haven't they?
1999, wasn't it?
Was it?
First
one? Yes,
older,
that's right. Yeah,
it'd be worth giving them another look, I think.
Yeah, do you know what? I think from how you can watch some things and they don't hold up because you're like, oh, actually, that don't fly today.
Yeah.
There's one particular part in American Pie 1 with the filming of Nadia where you're like, oh, actually, that's a massive invasion of privacy and that isn't on now. But
it was something worth looking at the time. I can
Shannon
remember that.
Elizabeth, yeah.
Yeah.
But to be fair, even though we could say it's a bit dubious, I would still say that a lot of teenage kids would probably set up a prank like that now.
Oh, of course they would. But they'd whack it on TikTok, wouldn't they? That's what they do.
Well, no, that's absolutely I suppose things like that. Well, no, actually, working in a setting where, actually, I don't want to go into my job too much in the places where I go, but say in a hospital setting where you do meet parents of children who are in school, the things you hear about that go on in schools these days, it's as worse, if not even more worse than what we had to deal with. Like particularly with social media. Yeah, if something does happen like that, Sherman sent it. Well, not Sherman. It was Jason Biggs sent it through. Jim sent it to everyone on their emails, but literally that's just everyone in the school. Now it'd be everyone across the world. Like if something like that went viral, then it'd be everyone across the world, and they wouldn't be able to get away with it. So
oh, technology.
Yeah.
Go on then, Neil. You're number 4.
So I will just jump straight in with Toy Story, the original 3.
Yeah, that's my number 3.
Yeah. What a cartoon and a story with heart. We all feel it. We've all been moved, touched, and cried along with Woody and Buzz and his collective crew. I'm going to say controversially, I quite enjoyed number 4, but they didn't need to make it.
No.
And now they're doing number 5,
Yeah.
which is it saddens me even more. But yeah, I just love the heart of these stories. The voice actors, Tim Allen, Tom Hanks, everybody really involved. I would say number 2 is my favorite out of the 3 overall.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that.
You know, and Jess's song that breaks my heart, doesn't it?
Yeah,
that's
the
way.
When
That's when
Loved Me.
Pixar was at the top of its game. I mean, I think they've overdone it now. I think they're missing John Lasseter something crazy.
I think it's more the way that Disney have played them. Disney have made them where they are a straight to streaming service, which is what they did over instead of being a cinema service, and it's killed them.
And it was a cinema. They are cinema movies.
They are, absolutely.
They're so well produced. But yeah, great stories. Obviously, you've seen them, haven't you, Simon?
Yeah, of course. But how are you going to talk about Toy Story and not talk about the animation?
Well,
that was what I was just about to say. Is if you look at the original Toy Story, it looks so crude now.
Yeah,
compared to what
groundbreaking at the time.
But at the time, it was like, wow, look at this, look at these amazing visual effects.
And it felt like that's what it was leading up to as well. You saw glimpses of what was possible, and that showed you what is possible.
And you can see there the way that they have moved on from Toy Story 1, 2, 3. Look at Toy Story 4, and it's like looking at an actual just film of real life, but with little toys in it, because the detail is just rendered just amazing. It's just unbelievable. But they've, and especially when if I think the documentary is up on YouTube, I'll put it in the video playlist. But the whole story of what the original Toy Story was supposed to be and how bad it was, that they had to completely stop it, and because Woody was a completely different character. He was more like the baddie of the movie than the hero, and they completely changed it around. But yeah, I'll see if I got it. I can put that in there. But yeah, I completely agree with you, Neil. It's just a lovely trilogy.
Beautiful
and number two is my favorite. As well. And again, it finished number 3 so well. They didn't need to.
They didn't. It was a perfect trilogy, wasn't it?
Perfect
Start, finishing in.
Yeah. Okay, my number 4. There are 4 in this particular franchise, but I'm going to go with the first 3, and it's Lethal Weapon. Hey.
I'm gonna hands up admit I forgot Lethal Weapon.
Did you forget Lethal Weapon? Oh, Neil. I mean, for all of his troubles, again, I like Mel Gibson as an actor. I think he's fantastic as an actor. I know he's obviously had his troubles and problems and stuff. But the two of them together, Danny Glover and Mel Gibson, just work so well together. The second one, I can remember seeing that at the cinema, and when spoilers, Martin Riggs gets shot near the end, and then it's the Knocking on Heaven's Door, I think, starts playing the Clapton version. I thought, oh my god, I was in tears at the cinema watching that. But it's just the mixture of comedy, the mixture of action, the mixture of just good, like solid 18 certificate language and violence. Is great. Number 3 is probably not the best. It's not the best of the 3.
Still got some great set pieces.
But still got some great set pieces.
And compared to number 4.
Compared to number 4, yeah. It really, and again, they're talking about doing a number 5, but now that Richard Donner passed away, I'm not sure whether Mel Gibson was supposed to be directing it, wasn't he? So
yeah, and they should just forget it now.
Yes,
just let it be. They nearly destroyed it with number 4. But I was just going to say, when I remember watching number 2 at the cinema after seeing number 1 a couple of years before, how violent number 2 is.
Oh, absolutely.
When you watch it back now, I'd forgotten how violent it was. But of course, it was Shane Black as well, the original. It's the start of Shane Black's sort of, dominance of how good he writes a script.
Indeed.
And everything.
Absolutely. You a fan, Simon, of Lethal Weapon?
No, this is another one to add to my list.
Oh, excellent.
Well, you're in for action and fun there.
The time that came out as well, I think what you're saying about the violence as well, I think there was sort of a competition between movie studios of escalating that with each movie that came out, like how violent can we make it? And I think what that shows with Lethal Weapon, I don't know, but it seems that that's a product of that, and that was a really successful concept as well, building on it with because it was different studios competing with each other and escalating. And I think yeah, it was brilliant from that point.
I mean,
Yeah,
it was surrounded by controversy when it came to the UK anyway, the first movie, because obviously the Hungerford shootings.
That's right, yeah.
And they were worried that they were going to put it on with the title that it was and everything. So,
but especially the first one, it's just a classic 80s action
Christmas movie.
Christmas movie, yeah, like Die Hard, Christmas movie. Okay, that was my number 4. So, Simon, you had the Nolan Batman trilogy at number 3.
Yes.
Neil, what's your number 3?
It's the Godfather trilogy. Now I know people.
Really?
Yeah, I love these
Even with
movies.
number 3?
Even with number 3,
Wow.
take away, right? It's got problematics with the film in the number 3, but you can't take away how strong Pacino's performance is in that movie. So it's probably one of the best performances he's done if you rewatch it. And I don't think it's as bad as it is. I mean, Sofia Coppola's acting, yeah, is terrible.
Is bad.
But we can get over that. She's not in it that much, to be fair. It's great. And we miss Robert Duvall. Really miss Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
But then when, as I say, it's still got its moments and it's still got a wonderful performance by Pacino. And quite moving performance as well. But when you put number 1 and 2, which to me, I know people question it and say, I find it boring, I find it this, they're nearly perfect movies for me.
Yeah, yeah.
And the second one, oh Jesus, I can watch that anytime, any day. The introduction of De Niro as the old Corleone, in his younger years, and we could go on and on, but I'm a huge fan of the Godfather series.
I feel like Simon's got another couple of movies he has to add to his list, or are you a Godfather?
No, absolutely. I've seen the Godfathers. Like I say, big impression out of the Academy, and so Godfathers are movies that perhaps I wouldn't have chosen to watch, but because of how well they were regarded, I have watched. And literally, yeah, I agree. Perfect movies. You've got the performances of Brando, Al Pacino, James Caan. You've got the direction of Coppola. The casting of the entire movie was perfect. And again, a lightning in a bottle. Just stars aligning for that movie. And then the thing is, I think as well, with iconic movies, you need to hear their name, Star Wars, Godfather. You're hearing the music instantly, and I think Godfather, for that, the music, the way it underlines everything in the movie and escalates things and de-escalates things and just gives that feel throughout. The cinematography for the time was completely unique, and the feel that it gave for that. And there's no other real movie like it. Other movies have tried to imitate it, build upon it, but Godfather was it. There's so many movies that have come along since then that wouldn't have happened if Godfather didn't exist. Casino, Scarface, Donnie Brasco, Goodfellas.
I mean, I've never read the book.
Sorry?
I was going to say, I've never read Mario Puzo.
That's exactly what I was going to say, because the original Godfather novel was going to be made into a single movie originally. And this is why there's 3 movies in the first place, because while the first and second movies are considered perfect on their own, Coppola said himself the third movie did have to be made. He says himself that he feels that the story for the third movie is better than the first movie. And the first movie, the story through that, I mean, we haven't even talked about what happens in the film. That's how good a movie it is. The actual storyline of that is perfect. The way it crescendos and peaks and there's mellow moments and times for introspection, then escalation, and the way the music underscores it all. It's a beautiful movie.
Yeah, I've got a copy on VHS that does it in chronological order. They re-edited it.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we used to have that. God, I don't know where that's gone.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I think the Academy Awards will speak for themselves with that one as well. In terms of all the movies on the list, that's the one that, well, apart from Lord of the Rings, I suppose, that's the one that, in terms of performances, it did win several.
Yeah, strong acting. An actor's film.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people study that movie to learn how to act. I mean,
especially Marlon Brando.
Higher than that.
We forget what amazing actor that man was. He sort of became a parody of himself later on. But while he was filming that, so he was acting, and we all thought he was old, but he wasn't really that old. I think he was younger than I am now when he made
And
that movie.
he said himself that the decision that he made for that performance with the cotton wool balls was completely impulsive.
Yeah,
He was
because
like,
he was filming Last Tango in Paris, wasn't it, at the same time?
Right, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's all right. Okay, number three. My number three is Toy Story. So, Simon, over to you for your number two.
My number two is The Godfather.
Oh, well, there you go.
There we are.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
it's
great
no
movies.
wonder you was waiting on that, weren't you? Okay. Well, we've said what we need to say on that, but that's fine. Okay. Right then. So, Neil, you're number two.
Right, I'm going to tell you now, my number one and number two could swap any day and any week, but I've set it in stone. Basically, you'll understand why when I explain. So I put number two, the Star Wars, as the original trilogy. We've talked about this numerous times. Anybody that's listened to the podcast knows we're fans of Star Wars. But the fact that Star Wars was the first movie I ever went to see at the cinema in 1970, the end of 77 into 78.
Yeah.
Yeah, was my introduction to the cinema world. And so I've always held it with close esteem for nostalgic reasons, but also for great storytelling and the ambition of George Lucas of what he brought to the screen, of what he wanted to do. You know, the more you read into it, the more, you know, he was brave in what he was doing there. It could have quite easily have flopped as well as become the extravagant thing that we see in front of us. I wish he'd stopped tinkering. I think he has now, hasn't he? Maybe.
Well, I don't think he hasn't got any power to tinker now if he wants to.
That's true. But yeah, going through all those years of tinkering nearly, you know, could have destroyed a childhood dream, and it didn't. Shows how strong they are. I think number two is the strongest in the trilogy by number one and then number three. But altogether, they're just a good old jolly chapter play romp. So anyway, I can describe it. We don't need to talk about the plot. Everybody knows the plot of Star Wars.
Yeah. Are you a Star Wars fan, Simon?
You know, I've never seen Star Wars.
What it's another the fucking hell's going on?
You come on here.
It's another one to add to my list. And the funny thing about it is, I know the Star Wars movies are held in high esteem by people, but the higher we went on the list, I was just starting to think, oh, maybe Star Wars ain't on their lists.
I can pretty much guess.
I was like, maybe I can avoid this uncomfortable conversation.
Well, no, we don't. It's not an uncomfortable. I mean, the thing is, not everybody likes everything. I've always said that before.
Well, yeah,
and it's a good job too.
I'll watch Star Wars, and they're like, "Oh, you got to watch them in this order." I'm like,
"Yeah,
I'll watch them out. It's fine."
That is the problem. Well, I would have put money on the start before we started doing this that Neil and I would have the same top two. It would just be what order they would be in. So he's probably spoilt what my number one is, and I may well spoil what his number one is. But I'll say what I want to say about Star Wars in a minute, but I've said it fucking millions of times on this podcast anyway. My number two is Indiana Jones. Now, for me, it's a perfect trilogy. Now, people tend to not like Temple of Doom. I've grown to love that one more and more the more and more I watch it.
Likewise. Especially now we can see it uncut.
Yes, we can see it properly on Disney Plus. It's the uncut version. Number 4 never needed to be made.
Is there a number 4?
There is a number 4, and I went and watched Dial of Destiny on Saturday.
I'm going to quiz you about this after the podcast.
Right?
Sorry? What was that, Simon?
This is the 5th movie.
This is the 5th one, yes. Yeah. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And, I mean, look, I could go on a rampage, but I'm not going to because I don't want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't seen it yet.
I saw what you said about the CGI that's used in it because I was fascinated when Will Smith did that movie and it de-aged him. And so, yeah, I'm interested from that point of view.
It's because the well, like I was saying, since like post-COVID, I haven't got excited about a movie just because there hasn't been anything to be excited about. To be fair, just before COVID was when Rise of Skywalker came out, and that kind of broke my spirit for everything that I loved. It took my whole world was in question. So it's the fact that these movies and trilogies and franchises that I love are being not remade, but new chapters are being made, and they just do not hold up to the magic of what I had when I was a kid. Now, maybe that's an impossible thing. It's an impossible task that things from the rose-tinted years of when I was a kid, when I look back now and think I had no problems when I was a kid. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I did have problems when I was a kid. When I was a teenager, it was a terrible time. No one ever wants to be a teenager again because it's horrible, confusing. There's bits of you that are growing hairs. There's bits of you that have got spots all over it, and it's horrible. I'd never want to be a teenager again. But when you look back on your teenage years and you think, oh, I loved those movies and TV shows, and they can't. There's a lot. I really genuinely, Neil, feel I want to make a video to put on our YouTube channel for the Indiana Jones movie, just because of there's so many things I want to say, but obviously I can't say it because I want to spoil things for people. I will talk about it when we stop, press and record. I would always say though, everyone has to make their own mind up. Go and watch the movie and make your own mind up. I've got my visions on it. But anyway, Indiana Jones for me, the first 3 movies are the perfect trilogy. It's everything you need in a movie, with excitement, adventure, comedy, just stuff that makes you scared. There's my daughter sent a picture of some footage of my grandson was staying over at her house from my other daughter on sometime last week, and she put on Temple of Doom for him, and he's 6, and he's sat on the sofa absolutely glued to the screen until the part when Mola Ram is there with the thuggy and put her hand, and he covered his head with the blanket.
That's what you want. Fantastic.
That's exactly what you need. You should be watching some of the Indiana Jones movies through your through your hands, because there's some genuinely scary moments in there. So yeah, but that for me.
I mean, it's no secret. You can all guess, but I am going to say, like you said, Pav, they are the perfect roller coaster movies to me.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've banged on that, we tried to do our top 10 greatest movies of all time. It's my number 1. It is that perfect movie, and all of them are. Whenever they're on TV, it doesn't care. If you've seen them before, you'll end up watching at least most of what's left.
Yeah.
And
now
Harrison Ford has never been better.
Yeah, Simon is going to tell us he's never watched an Indiana Jones movie now, aren't you? Aren't you, Simon?
No, I have seen them, but know what I think I suffered from is not seeing them when they come out. What years were they?
It was 81.
81. Yeah, 81, 82 was the first one.
That's it. Yeah, I was
86.
I was a bit too young for it. So yeah, they came out before. I was old enough to watch movies. So yeah, I missed that, and if something didn't come around in the 90s for me for whatever reason, and then people were still talking about it, as an adult, and so I checked them out. But then I think I missed the point of them by then. Because there's a lot of movies because of the way we've come in terms of movie making technology. You are like, this is an old movie.
Yeah.
And so but then there's so many classic movies that do suffer from that, but you are able to escape from that. You are still able to invest in it. And I hear what you're saying too about younger people being able to watch them in the same way that you guys did when you were younger. A friend of mine, who's probably 45, something like that now, he's getting his kids into those movies, and he went to Indiana Jones without his kids to watch the new one, dressed as Indiana Jones, with a hat and a whip and everything. So how much movies mean to people, I respect so much, and that these movies mean so much to people. Same with Star Wars. I do respect that. And so there's something like I wish, A, I got to experience, with the original wave of that, but B, if there's a way of still being able to experience that as an adult, retrospectively, I'm on board for.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that was my number 2. Before we reveal our number 1s, which I think we all should know what everybody's number 1s are now.
Yeah, in this one, it's been a bit of a spoilerific one.
Yeah. Simon, can you give us a countdown from 10 to 2? Have you got them written down?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. If you do that, Neil will do that.
Cranking up my phone.
And then I'll do that.
Number 10, Final Destination. Number 9, Planet of the Apes. Number 8, Austin Powers. Number 7, Men in Black. Number 6, Scream. Number 5, The Matrix. Number 4, American Pie. Number 3, Batman. Number 2, Godfather. And do I say number 1 now?
We'll say number
Not
1 in a
yet.
minute. Let Neil do his first, and then I'll do mine, and then we'll reveal our number 1s.
Okay.
So at number 10, I've got the Evil Dead trilogy. At number 9 is the Vengeance trilogy. Number 8, the Dead trilogy. Number 7, Nolan's Batman trilogy. Number 6, Back to the Future. Number 5, Lord of the Rings. Number 4, Toy Story. Number 3, Godfather. And at number 2, Star Wars.
And mine is number 10, The Naked Gun. 9, the Tom Holland Spider-Man. 8, Captain America. 7, John Wick. 6, Die Hard. 5, Back to the Future. 4, Lethal Weapon. 3, Toy Story. And 2, Indiana Jones. So, Simon, what is your number 1 Back to the Future number 1?
Where we're going, we don't need roads. Back to the Future.
There you go. So, I mean,
Fantastic.
so we all had Back to the Future, didn't we?
We all talked about it in depth.
So we all had it
meant to
on there. So I got no, you haven't done. Okay, all right then. So that's your number 1, Simon. Neil, what's your number 1?
Have a guess.
I can't think of anything funny.
Twilight.
Twilight. Oh Christ Almighty! Please don't ever do that.
No, it's the Indy trilogy. I can't not have it when I put Raiders, like I said, at the top of my movies of all time. We've spoken about it numerous times. It's perfect movies, perfect romps. They're timeless because of when they're set now, and I'm not even sure I want to go and see the new one. So,
well, we'll talk about it in a minute.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it in a minute. And mine is, of course, Star Wars, the original trilogy. I've said far too much on this podcast in previous episodes. I'm sure everyone would have known that's what it would have been anyway. Perfect movies, great movies. Okay, let's do some honourable mentions. Top Head Rick from a couple of episodes ago. Lord of the Rings, original Star Wars, Back to the Future. Indiana Jones, there's only been 3 in my mind, he says.
Yep.
Godfather, number 3 isn't as bad as everyone says. The Chris Nolan Batman trilogy and Jason Bourne trilogy.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, that's a good trilogy. Bourne movies.
Tim Wainwright says a lot of good movies go beyond a trilogy now. So if you're basing it on just 3 movies, then for me, Lord of the Rings is one of the greatest all-time trilogies. Darren Brown said it has to be the Back to the Future trilogy for me. Doug Simpson says Lord of the Rings. The Maguire Spider-Man, Dark Knight, the Cornetto trilogy, the Alien trilogy, Pirates of the Caribbean, the OG Star Wars, the prequel Star Wars, Back to the Future, and Toy Story. Anna Sanders says Indiana Jones for me. Corey Ogilvie says Back to the Future, and Karen Clark said Lord of the Rings.
Fantastic.
So there you go. We've done it. Movie trilogies in the bag. Simon, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you had fun.
Oh no, it was my pleasure. It's been great.
Excellent.
Yes,
and
thank you so much for your support,
we
Simon.
say thank you once again for your support, Simon. Thank you also for joining me on the old morning walks and coming out with some really obscure quiz answers for our song titles.
Always.
I don't know how you do it. I mean, Neil, honestly, some of the ones he comes up with, I'm sure he's just putting words.
Oh no, honestly, like music history, and I absolutely love. Like, if you could have a job in music history and actually make money from it, then absolutely I'd do it because it is definitely my number 1 passion.
That'll have to be our next top 10. Then we'll have to find a music history kind of top 10 angle.
Yeah, we'll find a music.
Greatest. Yeah, greatest musical stories. Yeah,
we'll sort yeah, absolutely.
Before we say our goodbyes, Neil, do you want to tell everybody how they can get in touch with us?
Yes, I will. So come and support the podcast at patreon.com/top10pods. All sorts of rewards where you could be a guest yourself. Do please come and join the fun. Email us at top10. Email us at top10pods@hotmail.com with any questions you may like or any suggestions on top 10s. You can find us on all the social medias. Give us a click, give us a like, give us a follow. Check out all of our links via the link tree. You can see it in the show notes below. And then do please come subscribe, leave us a review and rating wherever you get your podcast from. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Neil. Simon, once again, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have you back whenever you want to come back.
Great, absolutely.
Excellent.
Definitely do another one. Yeah, love
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you very much, Pav. Thank you very much, Simon. Great to see you, my man.
Great to see you too, guys.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you again soon, and let's go start the countdown.
10,